Hello, everyone. My name is Taiwo Awolisi, and it's good to be finally back here. Of course, like I promised, that I will always bring you valuable content on this channel. And of course, today I like us to ask ourselves, what exactly does value mean to me? What does value mean to you? Hmm. Of course, if you would give it a particular definition, you might really get confused because value is relative. But I'd rather have you ask yourself, what do you value? What adds value to you? And what do you create to add value to others? What is it that I do that makes me feel like I am living in purpose, that I also use to solve problems for others? Of course, if you want to pin it to a particular definition, it might really be difficult as it is relative. Value is relative and value is based upon needs. So, what do I offer to meet a need in a particular area, in whatever industry it is? I don't care what industry it is. As long as it is meeting a need, you are creating value. And you don't have to be in aviation or banking or no. Everybody has value to create in their area of knowledge. That is it. As long as you're solving problem in any industry, in any area of life, you are already creating value and you are valuable. You are valuable. And one beautiful thing about value creation is that it also makes you feel confident about yourself. About your existence. It gives you that sense of purpose that I'm on this earth to create value and also impact the lives of others. It actually makes life easier for others and for yourself because when you create value, you are confident about yourself, you believe in yourself. It gives you a sense of purpose. And this will make me digress a little bit. Back in my university days, my first degree, in Nigeria, I was in one of my language classes, and there was this beautiful lady beside me. And of course, I like them smart and beautiful. So I wanted to engage her to, get to know her. I wanted to become a friend. And we got, talking eventually. And I asked her because I was curious about what program she was in. And I asked, what program are you in? And this lady told me, French. And I was like, French? Who on earth pays tuition in Nigeria to study French? Apparently, this lady was a shareholder in her father's, company. And, she told me I need these skills to also be able to engage some of our clients in the Francophone countries. And that left me spellbound that, oh, people actually go to any length to add value to themselves just to be able to create value. Well, you can entirely blame me. You are as smart as your level of knowledge. So, what I knew then was that everybody hated French. So, I never knew that people were going the extra mile to acquire the skill to be able to manage businesses across borders, across the world. And that really humbled me, because I realized that people do not share the same perspective as you because the world is entirely, so large that people have different perspective towards things. So what you know is not entirely the truth of this whole world. So I like you to ponder on this. Ask yourself, what do I have? Whether it's inherent or what I can learn here on earth that can add value to me and I can also use to create value, to add value to others. So once you are able to answer these questions, you are actually on the path to creating value and the path to living in purpose. And I know young people these days might start to think, oh, I have to be a CEO in an organization. I have to be this, I have to be that before I can create value. No, value is based upon needs, just like I said earlier. And if you're able to meet a need, you're already creating value. For instance, if your talent is sketching, maybe you can actually create styles, clothing styles, shoe designs in your head, and you love sketching something out. Of course, you can give these sketches to fashion designers who can bring all of these sketches to life. And that way, you're already creating value. If you're baking or you love to cook, and you feel that you want to go on Operation Feed the Nation or Feed the People, and you can make confectionaries out of your skills, that means you can create value in the food industry. Of course, to create value, you also need to stay alive to be able to create value. And if you know that a healthy lifestyle, adds value to you, you would, of course, consider, exercising your body, consider eating good food, consider things that keep you healthy to be able to stay alive. And I would use myself for an example. I know that my brand is one of my values, and it's something I value so much. Hence, everything that makes up my brand, whether it's my outlook, what I wear, how I present myself to the public, my oral hygiene, all of these are part of my value. And of course, to consistently create value, I also have to maintain this good brand. So, if I see that I have some, say, discoloration on my face, I have acne, I want to get myself into routine of skincare to ensure that all of these blemishes are wiped off. And of course, when it comes to my oral hygiene, I also want to leave a very good impression with people when I talk with them, whether, when I talk to my audience, it could be a small circle of people that I speak with. It is also important that, despite I giving a great speech and all of that, I also leave a good impression about my oral hygiene. So I don't leave people in that uncomfortable zone where they are not able to tell me, oh, that's on a good breath coming out from there. So I ensure that I pay attention to my oral hygiene to be able to leave a great brand impression. That's just by the way. Another thing that I value so much about my brand is how I walk and how I carry myself. So, I know I may not have walked the biggest stage in life, but I know that someday that's gonna happen, and I want to walk confidently to that stage. And back in during one of the ASA strikes in Nigeria, I remember my big cousin gave me some heeled shoes, and it was really uncomfortable for me to walk on heels as of that time. And what I did, during the ASA strike was to walk consistently on heels, just to be able to walk confidently. And I know that is also, because it's part of my brand. Today, I can walk confidently on heels uninhibitedly, and I believe that whatever has value to you, you just want to acquire it consistently. If you are a model, of course you need that. So we don't bring all of these things from heaven. No, some things are learned here on earth. If there is something that can add value to you and you feel you don't have it, you don't have the skill, you can acquire it. And that brings me to this conversation, because I like technology, honestly, and I consider myself tech savvy. So I try to acquire as much skill as possible around technology. I remember back then, after my junior secondary school, computer was still very pristine at that time, and I'm a very curious person, and I wanted to know how do people operate this computer. So I told my dad, I need to attend a computer institute for me to acquire computer knowledge. And he said, of course, we can give it a shot. So we gave it a shot. I was able to learn Microsoft package, desktop publishing, all of the CorelDRAW, blah, blah, blah. And to date, I still keep acquiring tech skills, and thanks to goodness, social media is there. Different platforms are there for us to learn different skills. You can actually learn all of these things on YouTube and other social platforms, such that you are scrolling, but you're not just scrolling aimlessly, but you are scrolling to also add knowledge to yourself. Use technology, use social media to your advantage and not to devalue you by just scrolling aimlessly. Also, if the value you create is not serving a need in a particular region or is not meeting a need in a particular country or a particular area, you should take up the responsibility to find the people, the area, the region where your value is embraced, is accepted, is appreciated, and also rewarded. Don't get stuck in a place and get frustrated because your skill, the skills you have, is not serving a need in that place. Move out of that place and sell those value to people that can reward you sufficiently. And if you value eloquence a lot and you want to say the right thing at the right time in the right place with the right structure in the appropriate way, confidently, you also want to gain a mastery of a language. One thing about me is I studied English in my first degree, but despite that, I know that English language is a language you will learn forever. There are words you may not have been exposed to, while you are learning, and as you read, see, as I read novels, there are words that I come across. There are structure, the way they say some things that the way to say things that I come across, and I'm like, oh, this is new on me. I put it down in my scrapbook and I go back to check, that I check thesaurus, I check dictionary, I check Wikipedia, the origin of these words, the origin, the use, the pronunciation, the syntax, till it gets stuck in my brain. And that way, when I'm having conversation or I'm writing, because I'm also a writer, when I'm writing, this helps me a lot, because I want to express things in the simplest form. So it helps me to express myself in a way that it's easy for others to understand me, and it also makes me confident about the way I write, the way I talk, the way I speak. All of this is also part of my brand value, and I don't take it for granted. Any opportunity to learn, I'm open because I know it adds value to me and it also helps me to create value. If you value big conversations, say around economy, politics, policies, travel, big conversations, science, and all of that, you want to acquire knowledge about them, whether it's by reading reviews, watching the news, anything that, just make sure you are able to equip yourself with all of these big conversations. So, say you run into people who make policies in the world, and they move from topic subjects to subject, and you're not able to contribute. You might not be able to strike a friendship with such people in the long run. I remember some time ago I was in Asia, and I ran into one of these dignitaries from South Africa, and we moved from conversation to conversation, and he mentioned a criminal case about my country, even though that was not palatable. And he asked me, of course I knew about it because it also affected the banking industry as of the time it happened. So I got to know about it. And he asked me, do you know the source of that criminal case? Do you know how it happened? And of course, I told the truth. I said I didn't know, but then I would love to read about it just to equip myself with the knowledge. And he said, "Oh, I'm gonna have that with you. You seem to be like a smart person." So we had a conversation, and till date we're still friends because we are able to have good conversation about around the economy, and of course that's adding social value to myself. The kind of friends you have in your circle, that's some social capital, I must tell, because I know, if my friends want to create business in South Africa, I want to do business in South Africa, I have someone to talk to. So that's how to build. You're building your brand value. You're also creating value. And also adding to your social capital is also value creation. And I know some of you might say that I can't afford to travel right now. How do I have conversations around travel? You don't have to travel yet before you can have conversations around travel. You can watch reviews online. You can read about travel, and of course, I have been traveling. Through novels. I've been traveling through novels before I even traveled in reality. There was a time I had a conversation with my friend, and he mentioned downtown Manhattan, and I was like, yeah, we spoke about that, and it was like, how did you know about that? I said, I've read it in a novel. He just laughed out loud. Of course, you can travel through novels even before you start traveling in reality, and that way, when it comes to travel conversation, you can chip something in, and that is also, especially when it comes to your social value, your social capital. When you want to build such social capital, you can always, be have conversation with people who are well traveled, and you will do that confidently. And of course, doing the things that adds value to you and also creates value that solves problem not only rewards you monetarily, it also gives you self-confidence about yourself. You're happy about your existence. You're happy that your skills is actually solving problem in life. And of course, it also helps you to believe in yourself that with your skills, with the value you have, you can solve problems and make the world a better place. Of course, we're all on this earth to solve problems, and by solving problems, you're making life easier for others and also making the world a better place. And remember to always keep this at the back of your mind. The moment you start doing that which you value and that adds value to you, your self confidence soars and your sense of purpose begins to emanate. I hope you find this impactful. And of course, even if it's just one person that finds value in this, I am happy because the goal is to touch life and to help people who are still struggling about their self confidence, to help them feel confident about the value they carry, such that they are not doubtful about whether they are creating value or not. So, I hope this helps you wherever you are. And of course, if you find this impactful, please drop a comment and say, yes, I found this impactful. And please do not forget to subscribe to my channel, to like, and to share this content. As you learn those things and you consistently create value, I hope and pray that you find a sense of purpose in it. Thank you so much. My name is Taiwo Awolesi. I will see you on the other side.